calling all forward-thinking estheticians. It's time to redefine the art of skincare and embrace a revolutionary approach that begins with your client's skin cell health. I'm Pharmacist Benjamin Knight Fuchs, welcoming you to Truth Treatment Systems, where beauty begins at the cell. We believe you're not just a beauty professional, you are a healthcare professional. You want to make a positive difference and you want to make a good living, and we will help you do both. We're here to support your out-of-the-box thinking and empower you to question traditional products, outdated formulations, and old-school ingredients. Imagine a world where solutions to the skin's enigmatic conditions lie just beyond the horizon. At Truth, we're not just a skincare brand, we're a movement that encourages you to explore better solutions and find that aha moment that changes the game. You are an artist and a healer of the skin, and we're here to provide the canvas and the tools for you to create tailored protocols, leaving generic ones in the past. Sign up now at truthtreatmentspro.com and receive 2 complimentary mineral-rich electrolyte sheet masks. That's truthtreatmentspro.com, where healthy skin is beautiful skin.
This podcast is sponsored by LAMPROBE. LAMPROBE is a popular aesthetic tool that enables skincare practitioners to rapidly treat a wide variety of common minor skin irregularities, or MSI. Red MSI treated by LAMPROBE include dilated capillaries and cherry angiomas, yellow MSI, cholesterol deposits and sebaceous hyperplasia, and brown MSI treated include skin tags and more. LAMPROBE MSI treatments are non-invasive and deliver immediate results. LAMPROBE can empower your skin practice with these new and highly in-demand services. For more information, visit lamprobe.com. That's LAMPROBE.com. And follow LAMPROBE on social media at LAMPROBE.
Hello and welcome to ASCP and the Rogue Pharmacist with Benjamin Knight Fuchs. In each episode, we'll explore how internal and external factors can impact the skin. I'm Maggie Stasek, ASCP's Education Program Manager, and joining me is Ben Fuchs, skincare formulator and pharmacist. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Maggie.
When we enter winter, dry, red, itchy skin becomes more prevalent, but sometimes this irritation is caused by more than just environmental factors. How can you tell if this is eczema, psoriasis, or something else?
Okay, so that's a great question. First of all, in the winter, there's less humidity in the air. Cold air holds less moisture than warm air, so skin will be drier. Dry skin is a stressor, or dryness in the air is a stressor. Usually, under ordinary circumstances, the skin can absorb moisture from the ambient humidity, and this is one of the ways the skin moisturizes itself. A lot of people don't realize that the skin actually sucks up moisture from the air via these molecules, which collectively are referred to as the natural moisture factor. Things like lactate and glycine and arginine and potassium act to absorb moisture. And these moisture-absorbing molecules, called the natural moisture factor, suck up moisture from the ambient humidity, which is why in Miami, people have, they'll say, oh, I love the humidity. My skin looks really wonderful. And then I came to Colorado and, oh my gosh, my skin was really dry. Well, it turns out when you come to Colorado from Miami, your skin makes more natural moisture factor. Unless you do the worst thing you can ever do to dry skin, which is what we all do to dry skin, and that's put a moisturizer on. You put an occlusive moisturizer on your skin, you suppress the natural moisture factor. So in the wintertime, we're going to have drier skin. If your skin is sensitive, if your skin is immune compromised, that dryness can trigger reactions. So one of the ways that you can prevent these reactions from occurring actually is occlusion. And while occlusion, which means covering up, is usually not a good thing to do your skin, if you have things like eczema or dermatitis or rashes, you can use occlusion to your benefit to prevent that from happening. Under ordinary circumstances, occlusion will suppress the natural moisture factor and give you chronically dry skin, which is why I don't recommend that people use occlusive moisturizers, because you want that natural moisture factor to be able to regenerate itself, and occlusion will prevent that from happening. However, if you have some kind of compromise, I'll tell you what those are, the 2 main compromises here in a second, then occlusion can be beneficial. So what are those compromises? What makes the skin more sensitive to low ambient humidity or wintertime conditions? Number 1, nutritional deficiencies. Most especially nutritional deficiencies in fatty nutrients. The most important fatty nutrients for the skin are the essential fatty acids, omega-6 and omega-3. A lot of people are under the impression that omega-6 essential fatty acids are somehow contraindicated because they're pro-inflammatory. Well, it turns out that you need omega-6 and omega-3 essential fatty acids because inflammation is part of the healing process. And anti-inflammation, of course, is also part of the healing process. So essential fatty acids are key. In fact, one of the ways you can induce dry, itchy, rashy skin in a laboratory animal is pull out the essential fatty acids from the diet. That's one of the first signs of essential fatty acid deficiency. And I would venture to say that the fact that we have 14, maybe 12 to $14 billion a year in moisturizer product sales in this country, some ridiculously high amount of dollar amount, and everybody has dry skin, right, is at least partially the result of deficiencies in the intake of essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are hard to get from foods. They're found in things like eggs and nuts and avocados and various grains and seeds. But because we cook and we process our foods, we lose those essential fatty acids. So unless you're eating a lot of avocados and a lot of eggs and a lot of unprocessed nuts and seeds and grains, and you're not supplementing, you're going to be deficient in EFAs, which is why I always tell people to supplement with EFAs for dry skin. In fact, it's like a cure for dry skin. It's like a major treatment for dry skin is internal essential fatty acids. Vitamin A, also critical for skin moisturization. In fact, there's a drug that people take that poisons the vitamin A system that causes incredible dryness. It's called Accutane. Accutane's mechanism of action is to dry things up. It's fake vitamin A. It's poison vitamin A. So it shuts down the vitamin A system. And anybody who takes Accutane knows that the first side effect and the most prominent and dramatic side effect is incredibly dry skin, dry eyes, dry mucous membranes, dry throat, dry everything. It just dries you up like a prune. And that's just to show you how important vitamin A is for secretions, for especially the secretions of sebum. Vitamin D is also important for skin moisturization, something called phospholipids, which are found in eggs and lecithin and soy and beans and various grains, also important for skin moisturization. And a water-soluble vitamin that plays a very important role in the fat system of the body, and this is a water-soluble vitamin that's actually used as a lipotropic, a fat metabolizing and fat processing nutrient, is niacin, vitamin B3, which is also very important for skin moisturization. And all these nutrients play a role in forming the skin barrier. So helping form the skin barrier, number one, and helping promote the production of skin fats, number two, is also very important for preventing these kinds of reactions associated with winter skin. There's a really, really cool amino acid that is important for the production of the precursor to skin moisture factors and a precursor to the formation of the skin barrier. And under deficiencies of this amino acid, you'll have an incompletely formed skin barrier, i.e. eczema, and also you'll be prone towards dry skin because you won't be able to produce these natural moisture factor molecules. And this is an amino acid nobody ever talks about. For some reason, you don't even hear about it, and it's called histidine. I don't know if you ever heard of histidine. It's really a fabulously important amino acid. It's essential in the sense that you have to get it in the diet. It's only found in high protein foods. And if you're not eating well, you're going to be deficient in histidine. And that can also lead to problems associated with dry winter skin and the triggering of reactions. Then, that's the first part, is the nutritional part. Then there's the immune system part. When the immune system has been activated at the level of the gut or the intestine, you're going to have a problem, number one, absorbing your nutrients, and that can lead you to the whole nutrient deficiency thing. But you'll also have a problem forming the skin barrier. And that's because when the immune system is activated in the level of the intestine, number one, run into systemic immunity that will affect the skin. And number two, you can end up with a condition called leaky gut syndrome, which I'm sure you've heard of, where the intestinal lining opens up and becomes more porous. Toxicity gets into the bloodstream. And that toxicity can affect the way skin cells grow. When you affect the way skin cells grow negatively, that can impair the barrier, and that can create immune action at the level of the skin, which can result in, number one, dryness, which will trigger rashes, or in rashes on dermatitis and eczema on their own. So there's two major components to this. There's the nutritional deficiency component, and then there's the immune system component. And they kind of overlap in the sense that if you have a digestive problem, you're going to have an immune problem and you'll have a nutritional problem. So you want to focus on digestive health using probiotics, using stomach acid supplements like apple cider vinegar or aloe vera or betaine HCl, using digestive enzymes. There's a whole bunch of digestive support supplements that you could use. But then there's the psoriasis thing that you were talking about. And psoriasis is a completely different issue in the sense that psoriasis is an autoimmune disease. And I call psoriasis anti-eczema, or I call eczema anti-psoriasis, because eczema is when the barrier is not formed completely on the stratum corneum. You can actually see this. I don't know if you've ever seen eczematic skin, but you can see kind of pinkish underneath, and you can sort of see that the surface of the skin doesn't look right. Psoriasis is the exact opposite. Psoriasis is a hyperproliferation. It's an excessive production of skin cells. So instead of having no stratum corneum, you have excessive stratum corneum. Now, this is caused by a couple of things. Number one, it's an autoimmune issue, and the body is attacking the skin cells. So the autoimmune issues are when the body attacks specific cells. So multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune issue where the body attacks the nerve, the coating of the nerve cells. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the pancreas cells. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the joint cells. Scleroderma and lupus are autoimmune diseases where the body attacks the connective tissue cells. Psoriasis is when the body attacks the keratinocytes, the skin cells. This attack leads to a couple of things. Number one, it leads to deformities in the skin cells. These deformities impair the skin cells' ability to communicate with each other. And this is kind of tricky and very interesting. As cells are rising from the bottom to the top, they're talking to each other. And so cells on the top are talking to cells on the bottom. And they're saying, hey, we're okay. We're all good here. We don't need any more production. And it's kind of a feedback system, a negative feedback system. And the cells on the bottom say, okay, I got the message. I'm not going to grow. But when those cells are deformed, that messaging becomes impaired and the cells on the bottom don't get the message. And so they keep going. And so the cells on the top are trying to say, hey, we're okay here. We're okay here. But they don't get the message because the communication is impaired because of this immune attack on the cells. It disrupts the fidelity in the communication, and you get this continuous growth of skin cells. So there's a couple of things you could do for psoriasis. Number one, for all autoimmune diseases, I'm talking whatever, for type 1 diabetes, for scleroderma, for lupus, for rheumatoid arthritis, whatever it is, always focus on digestive health. The relationship between the intestine and all immune issues is clear cut. Nobody questions it, but for some reason we haven't linked the intestine, at least the mainstream. Alternative practitioners understand this, but the mainstream has not linked the relationship between intestinal health and the immune system. Any immune problems, including autoimmune problems, have to be treated as intestinal issues. And that means things like probiotics, protect against leaky gut, staying away from problem foods, using more fiber. There's a whole hyperimmune egg. There's a whole bunch of ways you can treat digestive health issues. And then secondly, there are nutrients that are really important for keeping skin cells growing correctly. The two major nutrients for keeping skin cells growing correctly, for controlling proliferation, are by far and away vitamin A and vitamin D. And both vitamin A and vitamin D work together. You've heard of A&D ointment, I'm sure. Everybody's heard of A&D ointment for diaper rash. They both work to control the growth of cells, to stabilize the growth of cells. Vitamin A can be used topically. And for psoriasis, retinol can be used. Retinoic acid can be used. If you go to a dermatologist, they'll give you a synthetic retinoid. Definitely take oral vitamin A for psoriasis. And then same with vitamin D. Vitamin D is a little tricky to dose orally, but you can use topical vitamin D. In fact, the main prescription drug for psoriasis is a product called Dovanex, which is a synthetic form of vitamin D. But you can use regular vitamin D. You can eat vitamin D containing foods, or one of the best treatments for psoriasis is get yourself in the sun. In fact, dermatologists will put people under a UV lamp for psoriasis. So make sure you're getting some sun to get some vitamin D as well. And then there's all the other fatty vitamins that we talked about for keeping the barrier strong, things like essential fatty acids and niacin and the phospholipids. So psoriasis is a little bit different than the whole dermatitis and eczema component of winterized skin. Psoriasis is more like an autoimmune problem, but still there's the overlap with the digestive system and the fatty nutrients.
That concludes our show for today, and we thank you for listening. But if you just can't get enough of Ben Fuchs, the ASCP's rogue pharmacist, you can find him at truthtreatments.com. For more information on this episode or for ways to connect with Ben Fuchs or to learn more about ASCP, check out the show notes.